Welcome to the What Work Teachers. We often get asked this question: will this work in my school? In 2020, we started What Would Education to help teachers to robustly test what works and what does not work for pupils in their schools. We do this using micro RCTs. So what is a micro RCT? So basically, this is a simple way of testing if something works. So in this case, we identified two similar ability classes. We then randomly allocate one to the intervention group and one to the control. Then both groups complete a pre-test assessment. The intervention completes the intervention over that period of time, which is usually 6 to 8 weeks, and the control will continue as normal. And then both groups complete the post-assessment. If the intervention shows promise, then the control group can then access this. And then what we do at What Would Education is we aggregate the data together from across schools to build an evidence base. Is it ethical to withhold an intervention from the control group pupils? We use a waitlist design. So that means the pupils in the control group will have access to the intervention after the post-assessment has been completed, and if you decide this is an approach you want to use based on the data. We use typical practice, so pupils undertake teaching and learning activities that are similar to usual practices in participating schools. And anonymous data. All pupil data is anonymized by schools prior to sharing on the What Work Teachers platform. So head teacher consent is sufficient to participate in the research. So what is What Work Teachers? So What Work Teachers is a platform that's designed to help educators set up, implement and test interventions in your school. One of the biggest barriers that we encounter with teachers is time and the lack of this. So what we've done is we've streamlined the research process to enable you to watch 3 short videos to help you understand how to use the platform, the research evidence underpinning the intervention, and then how to implement this in your school. We then provide you with a downloadable research protocol, which goes through the research question, the design, the outcome measures, and analysis. We then include a resource folder that includes all the resources required to run the intervention in your school. And we have a trial wizard, which automates the setup of the intervention, the data analysis, and provides an impact report for your school as soon as you finish the evaluation. So how does the What Work Teachers platform work? So the first thing you will do is you will sign up, create an account. You will then select the intervention that you're looking to choose. We do 2 types. We do class level and then individual. It's just a small group. You then sign up and this opens your teacher cockpit. You then have the short welcome video which you're watching now, which goes through how to use the platform. You then have a second short video which goes through the intervention. A third video on how to implement this in your school. You then download the research protocol. And then download the resource folder. And the resource folder includes an anonymized pupil tracking spreadsheet, which allows you to link a learner on the platform to a learner in your class. We then ask you to put in your start date and then end date for when you're running the trial in your school. And then you move to randomization. You put in the 2 class names. It's important to note that only one teacher puts the data in, so another teacher can sign up to access the resources, but only one teacher will put in the data for 2. And then you allocate, so that allocates control and intervention class. You then complete the pre-assessment task with both the control and intervention. And then you input the data into the platform. So we have a maximum score of 20 and the system will not allow you to put a score in higher than that. So it's one way of checking the data quality. One thing we do ask you to do is to have another teacher potentially to read out the data when you're entering it, and just have one final check to make sure this is correct before you move to the next stage. And then you can click free school meal status for any students which are eligible for free school meal. And then the next thing you do is run the trial. So you don't actually come back onto the platform for the next 6 weeks until you've completed your post-assessment task, and then you just complete the data entry process again. So again, we just ask you when you put your post-test data in, just to double check the scores. And then click Analyze. There's then a short process evaluation survey, which you just ask you to complete. And this allows us to unpick how it's been delivered in your school and any barriers that you may have encountered. And then you click Analyze. And what happens next is the system generates an impact report for your school. So this will give you the percentage change as well as the effect size. And this will then help bookmark where you've had the research protocol and then the impact report to help you understand how this has worked in your school. And right at the end of your impact report, you will see the data that you've inputted. And then the last thing you do is click complete. And then that trial will go into the My Trials tab. It's important to note that you only have to sign up to a trial once, and every time you log in, you just basically click on the stage where it is for continuing. So you go to the My Trials and you will find the trial that you're running in there. And that's it. That's how you use What Work Teaches. And the whole purpose of this is to allow replications in schools so that the data from each of the schools will then aggregate together to build a cumulative evidence base. This is an example from pilots we've run in the northeast of England. And then finally, just moving on to data quality. Our mission is to create a teacher-led evidence base that professionals can use to help inform the decisions they make about teaching and learning in their school. Therefore, the evidence is only as good as the data that teachers input. So please ensure that you follow the random assignment and that the data you enter is valid. As fellow teachers replicate each evaluation, we aggregate the data to create a cumulative evidence base, and together we can build something special in education to help improve learning based on evidence-informed decisions. So the next step is to move on to the intervention overview.